안녕하세요. Yeah. Hello, nice to meet. Hello Manila, Bravo, nice to meet you guys. Hello, I'm Jogo.